Megan and I live in the UK. I had secondary HLH in 2012 when I was 16. So my journey began when I had what I now know as glandular fever. At the time I thought it was the flu, but I had glandular fever that I wasn't getting better from, and eventually after multiple trips to the doctor, I was diagnosed with secondary HLH from my ferritin levels, which were very high, along with an enlarged spleen and various other things. And that trip to the hospital really was it then for the next couple of months whilst I underwent treatment. I would say I had glandular fever for about 6 weeks, and I was kind of going back and forth to the doctors when things weren't getting better and they were just getting worse. From when my doctor, Dr. Stevens, ticked to test for the ferritin levels, I got a call the next day, and I went to the hospital the next day. And then it was confirmed, I think, within 6 hours initially, before they started doing some further investigation to see what damage had been done at that time. This might sound strange, but I don't think I knew until years later that it wasn't going to be the same, just through the way I went into autopilot and blocked out a lot of things. I wanted to get back to college straight away afterwards, so I just threw myself into what I thought a normal 16-year-old would be up to at that point. And then it wasn't until years later, when more of the mental side had impacted me. And I think I was also protected from a lot of things through my family. So I didn't really realize how much it would impact me until later on. So histiocytosis is the overproduction of white blood cells or lymphocytes, which are immune cells in your blood. And when you have too many, it can cause damage to your organs. It can cause tumor formations. HLH at the moment has primary and secondary, and I think most recently the lines have become a bit more blurred between those. But basically the primary is more related to whether it's inherited through your genetics or secondary, where it can be acquired, usually through an infection that kind of triggers the immune response. I went on autopilot, and my family is very positive and they tried to make the best out of a bad situation. So that would include listening to music all the time and talking about things we wanted to do when we got out of the hospital and dreams that I would have. I think in hindsight, it became much of a kind of a taboo subject to really bring it up afterwards. So I would encourage people now in I guess for me, I would have liked to have done it at the time, but just to communicate and be honest and open with how you're feeling in your journey, with your family, with your doctors, and with your friends. Just positivity, really, from my family. They were my support system at the time, and their positivity, and they protected me quite a lot from a lot of information. So I was still able to keep my naivety, I think, at the time. But now, in hindsight, I would say there's so much information out there, and there's so many communication channels where you can share your experiences with the community and speak to people that are like-minded, which I didn't know of or have access to at the time when I was poorly. So I relied heavily on my family, but now I think there's even more hope than what there was. I like to go on a walk. Nature is the best therapy. And again, family is my rock. Listen to music, country music specifically. But yeah, really getting out in nature, and I think it's great for perspective and reflection. The mental battle is always worth addressing, as well as the physical one, because you can feel really disconnected with yourself during the experience and afterwards. And I've really learned to try and reconnect and put that time aside to reconnect. I wish they knew that yes, it's rare, but there's so much out there and there's still so much hope so not to feel alone and isolated. I reached out to the Histio Association because actually their funding made way for the 2002 protocol, which was the protocol that I was on, and basically saved my life. So I don't want to downplay that. It's helped me massively with my feelings of isolation and my feelings of I'm the only one who understands kind of what I went through. And when I joined the Histio Ambassadors, I felt liberated because it was so great to have people that understood my journey and could empathize. And really just being a part of it has changed my mindset about my experience. It used to be a taboo, it used to be really negative, but I feel like I've taken back control of something that impacted my life, and now I've turned it into a positive experience. You're not alone. There is guidance, there's ample information out there. Going through the Histiocytosis Association website, there's all of the resources you'll need to educate yourself. Knowledge is power, so that helps you take control, because I think when you're newly diagnosed, you feel like you've lost control of yourself and your own self-awareness. So having that knowledge of what's happening, having the contacts and connections and making those connections with physicians, for example, to get you on the right path is really important. And time is key for this. And then also reaching out to the community, so you have that support system, you have people that can inspire and share their journeys with you, and you can gain hope from them as well. It helps others find their own voice. I hope that when people listen, they can resonate with some of the things that my story can bring, and they feel comforted in times where they feel isolated. Awareness is ultimately the key to get an earlier diagnosis. It's the key to finding a cure. So awareness and education is paramount. I share my story through various channels and hope that people can relate to or find comfort in that. I recently completed a triathlon to try and raise money for research, and I'm a Histio Ambassador, so I participate in that community and that space. So I've always said my hero is my dad, which may be cliche, I don't know, but when I think about during the time of the hardship when I was poorly, he was writing everything down. He kept this massive folder. He has no scientific background, but he went to so many lengths to try and understand everything that was happening so he could make an informed decision. An informed decision I couldn't make, and also was still quite innocent, young and naive to even make these things. I didn't really realize what was happening. And he and my mom would sleep pretty much on the floor in my room every single night to comfort me so I wasn't alone. Have all the hard conversations. They navigated through everything. And to top it off, when I was discharged, my dad trained so hard and to raise money for Histio UK at the same triathlon that I was doing, and it just meant the world to me that they went above and beyond any parents' level of requirement of what they needed to do. I couldn't get through without them. My happy place is at home with a cup of tea, with my husband, my bunny rabbits, and my dog Bruno, not doing anything in particular, just being. Have patience with yourself and with others, because when you have these experiences and you get diagnosed and your world turns 180, you have to adapt and people around you have to adapt. And I think my biggest advice is to have patience and understanding with yourself, because there's no right way to handle these situations, but you have a support system. We're here, we're there, and so as you're trying to navigate through this kind of journey in your life, just have that understanding and compassion and continue that through this journey and as you continue throughout your life, because this just doesn't impact you in one moment of your life. It continues, it changes you as a person, but it doesn't mean it changes you for the worse. It means you can grow so much from this experience and put it to good use and really turn that around into a positive. It doesn't need to be a negative experience that happens to you, because there's so many things that come from this experience, and knowing yourself and your journey as you develop in that experience is massive. I can't stress that enough.